Hello and welcome to Superfinal in Thailand. It's the second round of the FIM MX2 Motocross World Championship, as well as, of course, the MX1 Motocross World Championship. We're live here on our live studio podium in the, well, the winner's circle, I should say. And my guest this week, Adam Wheeler from OnTrackOffroad.com, and, of course, the Monster Energy Yamaha rider, Dean Ferris from Australia. He is an MX2 rider, of course, and he finished second in the World Championship in Qatar 1 week ago. Dean, welcome to Thailand. Obviously last week was a dream start to the World Championship for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it definitely was. It's always nice when it's you've been working so hard all off season, and then you come to the first round and get a good result like that, and it's awesome for the team, me, everyone.
Okay, and obviously we're here now in Thailand. What's the track like? How's the weather been? When did you arrive? All that kind of thing. How are you adjusting?
We flew out the next morning from Qatar, and we arrived here straight away. So I've been here a full week, acclimatising a little bit. It's a little bit more humid than Australia, but I think maybe I have a little advantage here. It's just been doing a bit of training, hanging out and riding scooters and having fun this week.
Okay, and obviously qualifying, me and Adam, we both stood up in the corner, the left-hander, after the second Monster Energy tabletop. Had a scary moment there. You looked like you cleared the tabletop by about a week. Heavy landing, face in the handlebars, shot straight out of the track. What happened?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think I was banging bars with someone earlier in the race, and then my brakes failed on the up ramp, and I could have cleared the jump 2 times over. I think I went that far, and my hand come off the handlebars, and I'm actually so lucky I didn't crash. So like I was thanking my guardian angels when I hung on to it after that for sure. But I bring it home in 10th for qualifying, and it's not such a big deal. It's no points on Saturday, so we sorted out the brake issue. And
so how did you lose the brake? Was it a collision or a stone?
Yeah, maybe a collision. We're not real sure. I think I lost a bit of fluid, and then it was perfect 1 second, and then it was just gone, like probably in the worst place on the whole track, I think.
This is the second GP of the year,
yeah.
But I think that was the best example we've seen yet of like the green fence in not being there actually helped you, because if you'd been there, you'd have been straight over.
Yeah, for sure. I would have cartwheeled if the green fence was there. I landed off the track on a bank, and yeah, they've got the yellow pickets this year, so I'm thankful for that.
Yeah. And obviously the first race today, how was it for you?
Yeah, I think I battled a little bit with bike setup. I was battling with Anstey and who was it? Boutron.
Yeah. And Boutron, Tixier, they were all in there cold
and then after 10 minutes, I was just eating roost, like more roost. So I thought I'll just back it off a bit and maybe attack them later in the race. And then I sort of struggled to pick it back up again. And my right hand went numb, so that was tough. And then I had Coldenhoff just battling me the whole way, and I sort of had to ride a bit defensive. But I ended up 5th in the end. So,
Adam, Dean, what do you reckon to this track? I mean, you're going to do the Superfinal next. It seems like it's going to be pretty tough for the 250s to make a difference. Some big old jumps there as well. You know, how do you reckon it's going to be?
I'm not real sure. I mean, last week was real tough with the 250s, 450s, because we're casing quite a few jumps. I think here we can do most of them. Well, we can do all of them actually. But it is an uphill start, and I think the 450 is going to have a little advantage there. But I've got a pretty good gate pick. Hopefully, I can pull a good start and try not to get roosted by too many 450s.
Yeah, Superfinal last week proved to be a good race for you, second in the class. It didn't matter where you finished in the overall race, but you know you picked up some good points, second overall. But flat start straight last week, probably longer than this one. It's uphill here, but fortunately after all the rain, they've taken all the heavy stuff away. So where the advantage was probably with the MX1 guys yesterday, is it slightly back in your favour now, being up the inside and not being as heavy? For MX2 in general, I think. Yeah,
I think so. I mean, if it was as heavy as yesterday, it'd be a big disadvantage. I think their lap times are pretty close between MX1 and MX2 today. The biggest thing, like I said, is the start.
Yeah.
Just getting out there, because it is actually a little bit one-lined in the first couple turns, so it's really important to get going.
Okay.
I mean, that Monster Energy Dixon Yamaha you've got, I mean, they said for a couple of years now it's one of the very fastest 250s out there. I mean, is that the case? I mean, do you feel like, you know, it's certainly off the line, but during the GP it's a capable bike?
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
I mean, you're covered in the sponsors, so it's not, you know.
No. I mean, I meant to say it's good, but it is actually a really good bike. I was really impressed when I tested it the first time in December, and well, I'm hoping to get a whole shot one of these days just to prove it is really a fast bike. And you know, apart from that, we've got Öhlins suspension that works great too, Golden tyre, and they've got really good equipment on the bike.
Well, yeah, it's a brand new team for you this year as well, coming back from MX1 to MX2. I was watching you ride around yesterday, and I think you actually suit the bike real well. You know, I was watching on the Kawasaki last year, and you've had a couple of years there anyway in Australia, but the bike seemed a bit big for you, and I don't know if that was just Kawasaki or if it was just the MX1 bike, but you look well suited to the bike. You look very comfortable on it. Would you see MX2 as being your class? That's where you should be at the moment, and you're in the right place at the right time now?
You know, right now it's the right place, I believe, but a lot of people have been saying, oh, you know, you're a way better MX2 rider, and I don't think that's the case. I actually think I'm a better MX1 rider. It's just a case of me having really competitive equipment right now, I think. So I think same case, if I have a really competitive bike in MX1, I can do just as well.
Yeah. I mean, a good thing also I see, Dean, like from a result of last week, you know, on Twitter and on, you know, like social media and stuff, you see people like Chad Reed, Casey Stoner kind of interacting. You know, there's widespread recognition of like MotoGP, AMA Supercross and stuff, and now your profile's going up in like, you know, Grand Prix motocross, and that's also good for you, but good for the sport as well. So Australia's back at like, you know, a good level here. Yeah,
there was a really good response back home in Australia, and all the sites went mad. It's been a long time since someone stood in podium from Australia. I think it was Andrew McFarlane in 2005. So yeah, obviously awesome for the sport, and hopefully I can give some young talent behind me some direction. You know, I was, you know, lucky enough that I got people and friends around me helping me out and pushing me in this direction, and you know, for the kids now, they can see it can be done, and hopefully they can make that next step as well and get some more Aussies on the scene.
I mean, you only have to look at the effect, like the Roxen effect in Germany. You know, the crowds have blossomed, and it's become quite a big deal over there. So maybe like if you can have a great season, then, you know, the Aussies will get, you know, really behind GP
Yeah,
motocross
I think
again.
even from my podium last weekend's made a big difference to even spectators coming here. There's Aussies running around everywhere. So I think everyone booked a last minute flight and was like, yeah, let's go cheer on Ferris.
Including Mum.
Yeah, my mum come over here and everything. So I got cousins and yeah, heaps of friends, and actually guys I used to race against in like 85s that just rocked up, and I recognise them. They're like, hey man, you know, you're doing so well, and we just wanted to come watch you race, and there's Aussie flags all around the track, so it's really nice for me.
Good. Obviously coming from Australia, spending a summer, you know, riding in our off-season winter, you know, do you feel better prepared for the heat this weekend? Were you just kind of doing enough to stay there and saving energy for the second race, the Superfinal? Because if what I'm hearing from last week, how intense it was and how fast it was, and everybody fighting from every position from first to 40th, you're going to need every ounce of energy, aren't you, in that Superfinal? Yeah,
that was my plan, but then I had Coldenhoff breathing down my neck, so I'll probably wasted a bit more energy there, but I'm hoping that I'm going to be a bit more fresh than the other riders in this Superfinal for sure.
Okay, so what's the plan? Good start and just see where you end up?
Yeah, well actually I thought you know, like I said earlier, I backed off after 10 minutes because I was just getting roosted, and then I seen Anstey, he pinned it the whole way, and he almost got the second. So and you know, MX1 sort of play with each other, and I think that's how I rode a little bit. You know, Steve Dixon pulled me up and said, hey man, you're in MX2, you just got to pin it the whole way. So the plan's just a good start and hold it wide open now.
Yeah. Okay, any more questions from you, Adam?
No, it's just going to, I mean, we go back to Europe next thing. I mean, that's going to be straight into the sand as well, on Vulcan's ride. I mean, how do you kind of feel about, you know, you're going to get diverse terrain? I mean, you've done like, you know, half a season, unfortunately, so you got injured last year in MX1. So, I mean, you've got a little bit of familiarity with the tracks in Europe. Is it going to be a big switch coming from these flyaways to the European races?
Yeah, it's a big switch for me no matter what. You know, I'm moving back from Australia. I've been there for 7 months now. I'm moving back to Europe, but I can just like flick a switch. It's I've done it enough times now, and I've got my, you know, my family sort of away from home, and my friends in Europe, and I'm actually really excited to go there. And you know, it's like I live two lives, one in Europe and one in Australia. So it's you know, 6 months in Australia, hang out there and train, and then now I'm in Europe, and I'm actually really excited to get back here and race. You know, because I've been training so hard all summer, and that's what you look forward to, is going racing. But as for the sand, I've got some pretty good sand skills, and I'm doing the Dutch Nationals next weekend and the following weekend before Valkenswaard. I think that should help me, you know, for sure for the for Vulcan's one.
Yeah. Of course, it's not as deep as Lierop or
No.
anything like that, or a Lommel.
Yeah.
But I know Dean's obviously got to get ready for the Superfinal. It goes in around about 40 minutes time, something like that. So I want to say thanks to Dean from Monster Energy Yamaha, MX2 rider, second in the World Championship at the moment, or before he came here anyway. But Dean, thanks a lot. All the best for the Superfinal, of course, for the rest of the season.
Yep.
And we'll let you get off and get yourself sorted.
All right.
No worries.
Thanks, guys, and big hi to everyone back home in Australia that's watching me.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I'm led to believe there's a Tony in our OB van. Give him a quick hello, will you?
Hey, Tony. Yeah, there's a guy here working in Ustream, so he wants a shout out. So, g'day, Tony.
G'day. It's Australia weekend this weekend, isn't it? Is it this weekend?
No. That was earlier in January.
So Formula One this weekend?
That's next week.
No, next
week.
weekend.
No, I was talking to a hotel guest that was on the lob, and he was saying, this weekend Australia Day and Formula One. I'm like, oh, is it? Right. Okay, I'll remember that when Dean comes on. He's had me. Anyway, Dean, thanks a lot. Go get yourself ready, and we'll see you in the Superfinal.
All right, thank you.
Well, Adam, it's all right. You can go right the way through. We were supposed to have Adam Wheeler, Kenny Bobyshev coming on as a guest for MX1, but after holding down what was a solid third place and led as well for quite a few laps in that MX1 race and going away from Ken and Tony, just seemed to throw it away on the last lap. Did you see the crash? Were you there? Because I know you were watching on the infield.
Yeah, no, I just I saw him run wide, and then obviously the bike was over the other side of the berm, and then he just looked completely finished, to be honest. He just didn't have the energy. Talking with Honda's Roger Harvey as well afterwards, he was trying to kick the bike in gear, so I think it was just all the signs that he was penultimate lap, he just I think it's just the whole dejection of losing third place and everything. But I was surprised to see him go down really on that approach to the jump that he's kind of made his this weekend. It was a real shame because he was setting a good pace at the front. Tony Cairoli was obviously playing a waiting game, just having Ken Dodika in front of him there. So that first crash, I think, it kind of ruined his race a little bit, but he settled in, had a steady third place. Clement Dossal was miles off, I think, in fourth. So, it's disappointing because he's a good character and he's a good guy. It's nice to see, the status quo of the top three already, you could say, being interrupted. So.
And the interesting thing there for me, obviously, he was the only guy that jumped the big double yesterday in the infield. The first Monster Energy jump is a tabletop followed by a single.
Yeah.
Those who haven't seen the onboard lap yet, that'll obviously be playing out in the Superfinal before the main race. But he was getting some serious height, wasn't he? And obviously people made comment and reference to it in the press conference. And what was his comment? When asked, were you scared up there? But he said something along the lines of,
"Yeah, you need your big coconuts or something." That's a typical, Bobyshev.
Typical Bobby comment.
Throwaway.
And obviously had them all in stitches. Everybody understood what coconuts were.
Yeah.
When he was leading the race and going away, there was a point where Ken Dodika looked that he was closing in. He'd gone from 4 seconds to 2 seconds. I don't recall him looking behind, but then he made that one mistake before that turn, didn't he?
Yeah.
Got himself back on. Cairoli jumped into second as well. And from that moment, I think I said in live commentary that this could be the game changer, because Cairoli sat in third, knowing that Bobyshev's probably not great in the heat. It might be a case of Ken catching him and running on and just closing by default. But once he realised that Bobyshev was out the way and that he wasn't going to be as difficult to overtake, he took that opportunity, moved into second, and before you know it, patient as he always is, and found a way onto the rear wheel. And Ken didn't really make it difficult for him; just gave him a wide berth at the top of the hill, and obviously Tony then from there was 10 seconds clear at the finish.
Yeah, so it's the way he rides. It's easy to forget that Tony's 26, 27. He's got a lot of experience. So in these hot conditions and on this type of kind of fast track, that's also pretty technical in some of the turns and big long ruts forming. He was just chilling out and playing a bit of a waiting game. He was making some mistakes actually, and I did wonder if he was something maybe wrong with him, or he was taking longer than usual to get into a rhythm. But I think when Bobyshev went down and then it was Ken in front of him, that was it was like a big fat juicy carrot on a string really. He knew that the moto would be his. Only he can tell if he believed that even before the Bobyshev fell off. But it was another little class of riding by Tony out front.
But going back to your comments about Tony making little mistakes here and there, he's smart enough, probably smarter than the majority of the riders out there, to go, you know what, it's not quite working for me at the moment, so I'm going to just back off, wait till I get settled, find my rhythm, stop making mistakes, and then go.
Yeah.
And obviously it was a mistake from Bobashev that maybe pulled that trigger for him.
Yeah, I mean, we've been seeing all through the weekend, really. It's almost similar to like kind of Ryan Villopoto in Supercross, because the corner speed that Tony carries is phenomenal. I mean, he's using a little bit of a higher gearing or something. That bike is not as stressed through the tighter turns. He's really just carrying a lot of momentum. He's on the throttle and he's just like whisking through the corners, you know, whereas the 450s, some of the riders coming in have to use the grunt, the torque of the engine to drive themselves out, and it just, there's a lot more kind of, you know, inertia there. And you know, I think that's really where Cairoli's finding his advantage at the moment. He's smart. He really knows what to do, how to pace this race in any kind of conditions and on most terrain. But that corner speed at the moment means there's no one really to challenge him. I mean, Clement Dessau, I'd love to have seen what he could have done with a better start, because he came off last week confident.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't really get the start. He was closing in on that kind of quartet until he had his spectacular crash coming over.
That was a scrub that went wrong, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Caught
I
a
mean,
foot peg.
he said afterwards he just, you know, he caught it badly, and you know, he was hanging off the back of the bike. I think he was really lucky not to get injured. I mean, he had some stitches, I think, in his side, and he said he knocked his shoulder, but you know, that was a big get off and a lucky getaway.
Yeah, going back to Tony Cairoli, well, while we're talking about Clement Dessau, yeah, comes here as a championship leader before race 1, loses it by about 3 points after the first race. But the corner speed from Tony Cairoli, as you mentioned, we were stood after that tabletop where Dean Ferris went straight on yesterday, and he had a sneaky line, didn't he? At both times we looked at each other and went, oh, that was nice. And basically, just to explain to people at home, because it wasn't live broadcast, but there was an inside line, it was nice and deep, but he was kind of getting out midway through that and going to the outside, getting the drive and using that to get over the step down. Then Frossard and everybody else came through, turned deep, nice and steep, but couldn't get the drive, and they were losing half a second just there.
That's right, yeah, not completing the step down. It was, you know, it was so much cleaner the way he was doing it. And you know, somebody else who caught my eye in that last race, coming through there particularly fast, and also having a fantastic first half of the moto in terms of exploring lines and gaining ground and position, was Tommy Searle. You know, it was he was good to watch. I think he hit a little bit of a wall, because when Clement Dessau crashed, suddenly you had Tommy, Gauthier Paulin and Clement together, and he sort of vied with him for a little bit, but then Paulin passed him, and I think he hit a little bit of a, not a wall, but he kind of settled into a rhythm where he wasn't going to challenge to get that third position, as it would turn out.
We've covered Clement Dessau. Gauthier Paulin, hard ride through the field again.
Yeah, after nothing yesterday. I mean, he really did not look like he was interested yesterday. Asked a couple members of the team, and people, they were a little bit of a loss to explain it. I think it was a case of him saving himself for today. Yeah. So maybe he was trying to figure out the track a little bit yesterday, but that speed wasn't really there. In the warm-up it was, and in the race, yeah, he was consistent, and that speed just brought him forward.
But he was jumping that big double as well that Bobby was doing yesterday. But I was keeping an eye on the timing screen. Didn't seem to be gaining too much time, though, and it goes back to what he said on Friday when they were having their little tuk-tuk media opportunity. That I asked him, said, you know, do you think that's possible? He says, yeah, it's possible. The distance is possible. It just depends on how high you go and how much time you can make or lose. And it didn't seem like there was a massive gain. So everyone else that's keeping it low, scrubbing, you know, keeping the wheels on the ground as close as possible, they were the ones that seemed to be, okay, it's not spectacular, you know, but yeah, it didn't seem to make any time.
It's a difficult section of the track. I mean, you can see the perils of scrubbing like Clement Dessau did with his crash, and even Jake Nichols in the MX2 race. Which
is that where he crashed?
Yeah, it was a great shame, because you know, he had a third place in the bag. He had a comfortable little margin there.
But then he was dropping down. He was about 8th up until the last lap, wasn't he? And then obviously that's when he crashed, I think, a lap before the last lap.
Someone said he might have had trouble with a transponder or something like that, but you know, it was anyway, it was bad luck, and it was another example of like how that jump can catch you out when it looks easy, but it's not actually so. And some of the Honda guys were talking about when Bobby was completing in the double that he was carrying a lot of corner speed into that left sweeper, so it wasn't actually, it was difficult to get the bike turned and back on the gas. So does it carry an advantage? I'm not really sure.
Yeah. Tommy Searle, we've covered him. David Philippart seems to be struggling a little bit on the Garibaldi Honda, doesn't he?
I disagree. I thought he had a great race. I mean,
you probably saw him more on screen than I did. I just suddenly seen him there, and then, but starts.
Yeah, he's losing on the start, because again, he had good speed in Qatar last week when he was he made the crash and came back from dead last to like 18th, nothing in the scheme of things, but he was quick coming through. And again, he made a lot of positions, what it seemed like, on the track in that first moto. If he gets a start, then he's going to be running top 5. He could be a threat.
And then Kevin Strybos, Rui Gonçalves, they had their moment. Strybos pushed Rui just over the berm at the bottom of one of the hills. But after that, you know, everyone's a million miles off the pace, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, Strybos was frustrated yesterday, a few mistakes, he crashed on the first lap. had his goggles covered in mud. So I think he was riding a little bit on frustration there, also with another poor start. I'm not sure if he got caught up in the crash with Sean Simpson on the first corner.
Yeah.
So yeah, and Rui as well. He's just
that was a moment there. Strybos pushing Rui over the berm. But yeah, great victory
Rui's
for.
looking good on that KTM. I think if had a little bit of a problem. I think it was a hand injury pre-season, so just trying to come back from that. Yep.
Yeah. Moving back to MX2, Jeffrey Hurling's 40 seconds clear, dominant display, but Roman Fevre is the surprise package in MX2 at the moment, isn't he? On the Wilvo Nistan Gem Racing KTM, his best ever finish in MX2 is on the podium in a race.
Yeah, he's the hot shot.
There's good things to come.
He is the hot shot of the category at the moment. I mean, these two flyaways are kind of exceptional. When we go back to Europe and we get in the routine of, a little bit more of 2 races in 3 weeks or back-to-back events, from Portugal where it might be, pouring with rain to, the sand of Holland. It'd be interesting to see, if you can keep that kind of same speed and consistency. But, these first GPs, you got to pace yourself, not go crazy. But he's one that's really taken a lot of confidence from a great outing and speed last week. I mean, there's no one really could run with him. I was another Frenchman.
Yeah, I was talking to Max Anstey on Friday, asking him about Qatar. He obviously had that big crash in the first race and rode his heart out in the second one. But he was saying the problem was maybe he arrived too late from the US. He came straight from the US to Qatar, jet lag. He was a little bit sick as well and all those kind of things. But he said he's been feeling fast and his bike is fast. So he went out there, got a 3rd place on the podium, 2nd Grand Prix. Expecting big things from him this year, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, especially if we talk about this weekend, especially his family residence being in Emmett, California, means this kind of heat is no stranger to him at all. And if you watch Max around the track, or if you got like a good coverage of him on the TV for a couple of laps, he's a very steady, a very smooth rider, very calculating rider. He's good to watch. He seems very kind of conservative, but he's just very fast. So I think he's going to be a podium regular. If I had to make a tip, but he's going to be right up there.
Obviously,
especially on that bike.
Yeah, and Jose Boutron, a fine ride for him in 4th as well. Ferris we already had. Jordi Tixier riding with stitches in his neck.
Yeah, 14
but not
stitches.
A lot of pain though.
No, I don't think he's going to be shaving for a couple of weeks because he's got a big bandage. Just like having 2
Movember
smiles.
came early for him.
But that was a big crash. He was lucky to get away. He said himself he was lucky just to get away with that cut.
Yeah. And I noticed as well when we had a replay of the start, Mel Pocock started the race with no goggles. What happened there?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I saw him waving on the line. I think he just put the goggles on, they snapped, and that was it. I mean, he set off and went straight into the pit lane, and that meant he was in the second half of the pack, going round like the 4th turn. So
yeah. Okay,
well, kind of setback. And Julian Lieber as well was another crashy on the first lap. He kind of he came back well. I think 13th or something he finished. So he was another one to track, coming through the pack.
12th. But he did look like he was riding good. Just before we go, Superfinal, uphill start, MX2 up the inside, MX1 around the outside. Obvious advantages with the 450s again, but it could be that Hurling's going to get a whole shot from the inside. Could be. Certainly top 5?
I don't know. About a whole shot, I can't put my money on the table, but I would say I think we're in for a nice race between Clement Dessau and Tony Cairoli. I think someone might try and push him a little bit now. Watch Gautier Paulin and Tommy Searle as well.
Either way, it's going to be an interesting battle, and of course MX1, MX2, the super final. It's another 35-minute plus 2-lap race. The top 20 from both categories in the main event for the second time, for the second Grand Prix in succession. If it's anything like last week, intensity and speed and battles all the way through the field, we should be in for a real treat. So that's it for our live studio show here in Thailand. We'll be back with another one in Holland, in Valkenswaard, in about 3 weeks' time on the Easter Bank holiday weekend. So from here in Thailand, thanks to Dean Ferris, Adam Wheeler, ontrackoffroad.com. We'll do it all again in 3 weeks. But before that, sit back, enjoy the super final, which goes in about 35 minutes, something like that. It's going to be a great one. Don't miss it.